The morning sun stretched across the desert highway, painting the asphalt gold. Officer Margaret Sullivan had been with the state police for 23 years, and she'd seen her share of trouble in that time. But she'd never expected trouble to find her that particular Tuesday morning, behind the Sunoco station on Route 47. Margaret was 58 years old, with silver threading through her dark hair and reading glasses she kept on a chain around her neck. Her daughter Rachel liked to tease her about those glasses, but Margaret didn't mind. Getting older meant getting wiser, and wisdom was something you earned through years of showing up, doing the work, and treating people with dignity. She'd pulled behind the gas station to write up some paperwork from a traffic stop. The shade was better back there, away from the glare of the highway. She was focused on her notes when she heard the voices. 3 young men, maybe in their 20s, had her surrounded before she could react. "Hand over your weapon, lady cop," the tallest one said. He had cold eyes and a serpent tattoo crawling up his neck. Margaret's heart pounded, but her voice stayed steady. "You boys don't want to do this. Just walk away, and we'll forget it happened." They laughed. The one with the serpent tattoo grabbed her arm roughly, and another reached for her service weapon. Margaret struggled, her training kicking in, but they were younger and stronger, and there were 3 of them. She managed to trigger the emergency alert on her radio, but the nearest backup was at least 15 minutes away. 15 minutes was a long time when you were in trouble. That's when she heard the rumble. At first, it was distant, like thunder rolling across the plains. But it grew louder, deeper, more insistent. The sound of engines, powerful and synchronized. The 3 men froze, looking toward the highway. Around the corner of the gas station came a sight Margaret would never forget. Motorcycles, at least a dozen of them, rolling in formation like a steel cavalry. Hell's Angels. She could see the patches on their leather vests, the skull and wings insignia that made most people give them a wide berth. The lead rider was a man in his 60s, broad-shouldered with a white beard that reached his chest. His name was Thomas, though everyone called him Bear. He'd ridden these highways for 40 years, and he'd seen plenty in that time too. Bear killed his engine and climbed off his bike, his fellow riders doing the same. The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. "Gentlemen," Bear said, his voice gravelly but measured, "I think you're making a mistake here." The one with the serpent tattoo tried to act tough. "This ain't your business, old man. Keep riding." Bear smiled, but there was no humor in it. "See, that's where you're wrong. When we see someone in trouble, especially someone who wears a badge and keeps decent people safe, that becomes our business." The other angels had fanned out now, creating a wall between Margaret and her attackers. These weren't young men playing at being tough. These were men who'd lived hard lives, who'd made mistakes and learned from them, who understood the difference between rebellion and cruelty. "We're going to give you boys a choice," Bear continued. "You can leave now, walk away, and think real hard about the choices you're making. Or you can stay, and we'll have a different kind of conversation. One I don't think you'll enjoy." Margaret watched as the 3 young men looked at each other. Reality was setting in. Whatever bravado had brought them here was draining away. They were facing not just numbers, but men who'd survived decades on these roads, men who knew how to handle themselves. The serpent tattoo was the first to break. He stepped back, then another step. His companions followed. Within moments, they were running toward a beat-up sedan parked near the dumpsters. The engine roared to life, tires squealed, and they were gone. Bear turned to Margaret, his weathered face softening. "You all right, ma'am?" Margaret nodded, finding her voice. "I am now. Thank you. All of you." "No thanks needed," Bear said. "My daddy taught me to respect the law, and more importantly, to respect people who do right by others." He paused, a distant look in his eyes. "Had a daughter about your age. She'd passed a few years back. Cancer. Every time I see someone in uniform, I think maybe that could have been her, you know. Someone trying to make the world a little better." Margaret felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm sorry for your loss." Bear nodded slowly. "We all carry losses, don't we? But we also carry responsibilities. To each other. To strangers. To the idea that we're all in this together." The other riders were getting back on their bikes now, the moment of intervention complete. But Bear lingered. "You know," Margaret said, "I've pulled over my share of motorcycle clubs over the years. Made assumptions about who you all were." Bear smiled, this time with genuine warmth. "And I've had my share of run-ins with police. Made my own assumptions. But assumptions are just walls we build between ourselves and the truth. Margaret extended her hand. I'm Margaret. He shook it firmly. Thomas. But folks call me Bear. Well, Bear, you and your friends just restored my faith in humanity. Maybe you did the same for us, he replied. Every day you put on that uniform, you're choosing to serve. That takes courage. We just happened to be passing by. Her backup arrived then, sirens wailing, 2 patrol cars pulling in fast. As Margaret explained what had happened, the officers looked at the angels with suspicion. But Margaret was clear and firm in her account. These men had helped her. They were good people. Before the angels pulled away, Bear approached Margaret one more time. You take care of yourself, Officer Sullivan. The world needs people like you. And people like you, she replied. Ride safe. The motorcycles rumbled to life, and the angels pulled back onto the highway, disappearing into the shimmering heat of the afternoon. Margaret stood watching until they were out of sight, her hand resting over her heart. That evening, Margaret sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea, telling the story to her daughter Rachel. I've learned something today, she said. I've been doing this job long enough that I thought I knew everything about people. But those men reminded me that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. And that every person deserves to be seen for who they really are, not what we assume about them. Rachel squeezed her mother's hand. Sounds like everyone was exactly where they